Good morning. A development that no one saw coming. The case everyone thought was closed has just been reopened. Not in Abuja, but in The Hague. The ICC has formally summoned the judge who sentenced Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment. Justice James Omotosho now faces international scrutiny, and Nigeria's entire justice system is on trial. This is Frank Johnson, and what you're about to hear goes deeper than politics. It goes to the heart of justice itself. Tell us where you're watching from and drop your comment below. On November 20th, Nnamdi Kanu was sentenced to life imprisonment. Days later, he was moved to Sokoto prison. Now, something massive has happened. The International Criminal Court has summoned Justice James Omotosho, not for politics, not for noise, but for serious errors surrounding the life sentence. And when The Hague calls your name, it's not a courtesy visit. It means something went terribly wrong. November 20th hit Nigeria like a thunderclap. The courtroom went silent as those words echoed. Life imprisonment. No appeal, no parole, just life. Locked away until death comes as the only release. Mobile phones exploded across the nation simultaneously. From Lagos to Enugu, from Kano to Port Harcourt, conversations stopped mid-sentence. Markets went quiet. Offices fell silent. The entire country froze with the same question burning in everyone's mind. How did we get here? Nnamdi Kanu, the name that splits families down the middle, that starts fights at dinner tables, was facing the most extreme punishment possible. Not 10 years, not 20, life. Every single day until his last breath behind bars. For his millions of supporters, it felt like a door being welded shut forever. This wasn't justice to them. This was revenge dressed in legal robes. The establishment crushing dissent and making sure everyone understood the price of challenging power. For others who genuinely see Kanu as a threat to Nigeria's fragile unity, the sentence was justice finally catching up, accountability after years of what they viewed as dangerous incitement. But here's what they're not telling you on the evening news. The real problem didn't start with the sentence. It started with how this entire case was handled from day one. This trial was never normal. From the beginning, it carried crushing political pressure, emotions running at fever pitch, and the watchful eyes of international observers taking notes on every move. Every step was scrutinized by serious legal experts, human rights organizations, and foreign governments watching whether Nigeria actually meant what it said about rule of law. Questions followed this case like shadows, disturbing questions about how Kanu was brought back to Nigeria. Was it legitimate extradition or something darker? Questions about his access to lawyers during detention. Questions about whether the court followed proper procedure or cut corners under political pressure. And these weren't just angry protesters shouting. Distinguished legal minds raised these concerns in academic journals. Human rights organizations documented them in detailed reports. Even neutral observers were quietly asking whether everything was done by the book. Then came the move that turned concern into alarm. After sentencing, Kanu was transferred to Sokoto prison. Some might think prison is prison, right? Wrong. Sokoto sits in Nigeria's far northwest, hundreds of miles from Kanu's southeastern base. It separates him from his family, his support network, the lawyers who know his case intimately. To countless Nigerians, this looked unnecessary and deliberately harsh. It didn't feel like prison administration. It felt like a message being sent. His supporters saw it immediately, a transparent attempt at isolation. Even critics who weren't on Kanu's side found themselves asking uncomfortable questions. What security purpose does this serve? What need requires this distance? Here's something crucial. In law, perception matters as much as reality. Even when a court believes it's operating in good faith, the way decisions look to the public can build trust or destroy it. In this case, trust was already hanging by a thread. The Sokoto transfer looked like one blow too many. A life sentence isn't just punishment, it's a judicial declaration that someone should never taste freedom again. Because of this extraordinary severity, the process must be absolutely impeccable. No shortcuts, no corners cut, no procedures rushed. This is where international concern began crystallizing. When legal procedures appear rushed or unclear, when questions go unanswered, attention extends beyond borders. Once international bodies start asking questions, everything changes. Nigeria has been here before. History shows that once a case captures international attention, it stops being just domestic. It becomes a test of whether our institutions can withstand scrutiny. And this judgment didn't fade quietly. It reverberated. Civil society organizations spoke out. Legal scholars pulled apart court records from every stage. Previous rulings and procedural delays were re-examined line by line. The debate was evolving. People moved beyond supporting or opposing Kanu. The conversation shifted to fundamental terrain. Was the process solid enough to support a life sentence? Because under law, outcomes matter less than the integrity of process. You can reach the right conclusion through the wrong process, and it's still wrong. If any essential safeguard is bypassed, the entire structure becomes unsound. There's another layer. Nigeria is a signatory to international human rights agreements. This means certain cases don't end within our borders. When rights are believed violated, legal doors open beyond national jurisdiction. That's why November 20th didn't close this story. It opened a more dangerous chapter of international pressure that can't be intimidated, scrutiny that can't be bribed, and global attention that makes governments lose sleep. The Sokoto Transfer poured gasoline on smoldering concerns. It made observers worldwide ask, is punishment extending beyond the sentence itself? Are authorities acting from legal confidence or trying to contain damage? Strong judicial systems don't fear questions. They welcome them. They answer with evidence and transparency. Weak systems become defensive, treating questions as attacks. As weeks passed after sentencing, the absence of clear responses from official channels made the atmosphere heavier. Silence doesn't calm minds, it feeds suspicion. Once suspicion grows in international legal circles, it attracts attention from institutions no government wants examining them. The judgment, the transfer, the unanswered concerns all combined into a powerful signal. This was no longer just Nigerian court business. It was becoming an international case examined not because of noise, but because fundamental questions about justice demanded answers. And when process is questioned internationally, every name attached to decisions comes under examination. That's how we reached the moment that shocked Nigeria's legal establishment. The next turn didn't come from Abuja or Sokoto, it came from The Hague. The International Criminal Court has formally shown interest. Let me be clear about what this means. The ICC doesn't operate on emotion. It doesn't react to Twitter storms. It moves with deliberate care, only when serious legal thresholds appear crossed. When the ICC demonstrates interest, everything changes. This is no longer about political opinions. This is a legal matter with global weight and consequences extending far beyond any individual. The ICC began examining how the life sentence was reached, not the surrounding noise, but the specific steps, because under international law, outcomes matter less than process integrity. At this level, courts ask hard questions that don't accept political answers. Was due process followed meticulously? Were fundamental rights genuinely respected? Was the court demonstrably independent? These aren't casual inquiries. These are serious questions that can reshape how a nation is judged for decades. The focus moved to Justice James Omotosho. When a judge is summoned for review, it doesn't automatically mean guilt. It means decisions under that judge's authority are being examined. It means the international court wants clarity, not excuses. The ICC looks at patterns. It examines timelines for irregularities. It scrutinizes transfers for improper motivation. It checks whether national courts respected both domestic law and international standards. In this case, multiple aspects raised red flags. Life imprisonment is the heaviest penalty short of execution. International law demands extraordinary procedural care. Any sign of error, political pressure, or irregular handling becomes serious. Observers began connecting dots. Kanu's questionable return to Nigeria, extended detention, questions about legal access, the trial's pace, the final judgment, the sudden transfer to distant Sokoto. Each action alone might be explained, but together they form a pattern inviting review. This is how international scrutiny works. It asks quietly, then investigates deeply. Once the ICC starts examining a case, they gather every document, review complete transcripts, analyze judicial records. Every step is measured against global standards Nigeria agreed to follow. This is where it gets uncomfortable. At this stage, defending a verdict requires comprehensive documentation proving every procedure was met, every safeguard honored, every right protected. Courts must show justice was not just done, but clearly seen to be done. If that clarity is missing, even a strong judgment becomes vulnerable. For Nigeria, this moment carries enormous weight. A nation's justice system is one of its most powerful symbols. When questioned from outside, particularly by the ICC, it affects trust, image, and future credibility. This is why the ICC doesn't need to arrest anyone to create impact. The mere act of questioning shifts power. Suddenly, the case enters a space where law speaks louder than politics. Many Nigerians misunderstand this. Some see it as an attack on sovereignty. Others see foreign interference. In truth, it's the result of agreements Nigeria already signed. International law steps in when national actions appear to touch global standards. The silence from official channels during this period only sharpened focus. When clear answers are delayed, international bodies don't wait. They proceed with facts before them. By the time the public hears about a summons, the process has moved far behind the scenes. That's why this moment matters. It shows November 20th didn't end the story. It placed it on a larger table where every action is measured carefully.